Nancy and George are staying at the Sakura Ryokan in Tokyo, Japan. The only decoration in their room is a calligraphy scroll on the wall. It's a lot like Nancy drew Shadow at the Water's Edge, with one major difference. Nancy is fluent in Japanese. I wonder when she learned it.
Argofunk Book Review, Argofunk Book Review.
Midori Kato is entering an arranged marriage with Ken Nakamura. Midori is uncharacteristically gloomy and distracted. When Nancy mentions Ken, Midori cries and runs away. Gee, I hope she doesn't do that at the wedding. Nancy meets Ken's family. His rich mother Yoko is ruthless when it comes to getting what she wants. Uncle Seiji runs a major investment banking firm. His British assistant, Connor Drake, is a snob who ignores Nancy. The wedding doesn't start on time. Everyone sits and waits for 45 minutes until Seiji announces the wedding has been canceled. I'm a little surprised everyone waited so politely for so long. Nancy's kind of nosy. I would expect her to be the first person to barge into the bridal room and see what the holdup is. Nancy learns that Midori disappeared minutes before the wedding. A brief search reveals Midori used the exit in the back. She left part of her wedding kimono on the gate. Nancy is shocked to discover one of the wedding guests is Mick Devlin, the hunky Australian she dated in the Passport to Romance trilogy. Nancy loved him so much, they almost got married to each other. Nancy's still attracted to Mick. She tells herself that no, she can't fall in love with Mick again. Her life is totally different now. She's in a strong relationship with her boyfriend Ned. Is she, though? In the last book, she and Ned had a big fight and almost broke up because he didn't like her detective work, while she didn't like how he spent 3 weeks camping with a hot chick. They seem like a pretty terrible couple to me. Continuity. Both families disown Midori. Yoko is particularly insistent that no one should try to find her. At the Ryokan, Nancy's surprised with a free sushi dinner. It sounds delicious, but it's a trick. The sushi is actually the deadly fugu fish, which is so poisonous it will kill you within an hour. I learned about that on The Simpsons. It makes for a decent death sequence, but I find it a little extreme that the culprit has already hired an assassin to murder Nancy. Like, Nancy hasn't done much yet. She hasn't even started looking for the runaway bride. There's no reason why the culprit should want Nancy dead this early on. Nancy and Mick double date at a dance club with George and Mick's nerdy friend, Gil. Gil bores George with a lecture on how Japanese people use art sales as a cover for illegal political contributions. Nancy warns Mick that she has a boyfriend now. Mick says it's okay. He promises he won't try to date Nancy if she goes out with him to the festival tomorrow. That sounds a lot like a date to me. Someone ransacks Midori's room and steals her diary. Nancy tracks down Midori's college friends, who say she used to date Mad Dog Hayashi. Nancy and George go to Mad Dog's studio. As the cover shows, he tries to run them over with his motorcycle. The big difference is that in the book, he's wearing a helmet. He may be a violent maniac, but he follows proper motorcycle safety rules. Nancy has her festival date with Mick. His kiss on the cheek sends a tingle down her spine. They almost kiss for real, but they're interrupted. The assassin returns and pushes Nancy towards a bonfire. He easily escapes into the large crowd, and she uses her karate moves to... Why did she use her karate moves to avoid falling down instead of using them to defeat the culprit at the end of the book? That's when she should use her karate moves. Nancy breaks into Mad Dog's building. He pulls a knife on her, and he is stopped by Midori. Nancy was right. Mad Dog is hiding Midori in his studio. Midori explains why she ran away. She found a secret painting at Ken's work. Connor caught her with the painting. Shortly after, she overheard Connor and Ken plotting to murder her. It's a little weird they did not try to kill Midori in the following 2 days, considering how eager they've been to kill Nancy. Why do they think Nancy is a bigger threat to them than the person who literally saw their illegal scheme? Nancy asks to be Mick's girlfriend. His pretend girlfriend, that is. That way she has an excuse to meet with him at the office. She's already been on 3 dates with him so far. I don't think she needs the girlfriend excuse to go out on date number 4. Nancy sneaks around in Ken's office, but she quickly decides that reading Japanese is too much work. She switches to searching the Englishman's office instead. She gets contact information for local art auction houses, and she's caught by Ken. Nancy's almost caught by the other suspects when leaving the building. She and Mick start making out with each other as a distraction. I'm pretty sure this whole fake girlfriend plot was just an excuse to make out with Mick. Nancy and George discuss the case while taking a bath together. The assassin throws a shuriken at Nancy through the window. Nancy dodges in time. She tries to chase the assassin, but he manages to get away while she climbs out of the bath and puts a robe on. This is the 4th Naked Nancy murder attempt of the series, which is 4 too many. The last one was over 50 books ago, so I honestly believed the series had moved past this. Nancy goes undercover to investigate the art auction house. The crime is the one that Gil explained earlier. Ken's company bribed a politician by purchasing his $10 million painting for $15 million. Doing it through an auction house made the bribery less obvious. Connor dies under suspicious circumstances, and Ken discovers Midori's hiding spot. Nancy rushes to save Midori in time. In a twist, it's revealed the culprit is Uncle Seiji. Midori accidentally confused him with Ken because they have similar voices. Really? She doesn't know her fiancé's voice that well? Okay then. Nancy does a perfect imitation of Midori's voice, which fools the assassin. She easily knocks him unconscious with a fire extinguisher. Seiji, the culprit, proves to be a bit harder to defeat. He holds everyone at gunpoint and explains some details of his plot. He talks for so long that Ken is able to sneak up behind him and dump a bucket of paint on his head. When George sees what happened, she is very confused. Midori and Ken get married for real, and Mick suggests solving another mystery with Nancy in a few years. The series ended 3.5 years after this book, so he doesn't have a whole lot of time left. The end. Post-book follow-up. I liked this book, and I especially liked how Nancy came up with good cover stories for her actions whenever she got caught. Not only does she make up reasonable excuses, but she explains why her actions should be kept a secret, such as, I'm embarrassed to be caught in this office. Don't tell anyone, okay? The Japanese setting was very good. I'm not a fan of Mick, but he was used well. George is clearly a fan of Mick. She regularly teases Nancy about him. The book has decent foreshadowing. The pacing is good, as are Nancy's smaller investigations. I don't have any real complaints, except that Yoko probably needed another scene, and the culprits were way too eager to murder Nancy. They hire an assassin before her investigation starts in earnest. I'm sure that's because the book wanted to get to the exciting Japan-themed death scenes as soon as possible. I give Nancy Drew Files number 96, An Instinct for Trouble, a 9 out of 10.